Everyone, I'm very impressed that you've stuck around for this long. I'm sure you had an exciting day on your Sunday here. Before I want to jump into it, I want to just tell you a little bit of what our users are saying. A lot of people think search is kind of a solved problem, so I want to let our users kind of speak what they think about what we've built just in here. And I promise I don't know any of these people. This is not my friends just saying nice things. You wrote, I love it, never knew that search experience could be so much better. Tried a few searches and likes the results. There's some, very short ones. It's just awesome. We have here something that I think a lot of you, if you're in technical fields, will really appreciate, namely a Stack Overflow app, and we'll explain what that is very soon. Some more skeptical smiley faces of folks say that I think I like it. And I like this one here, especially from just a few days ago. We're opening up our beta right now. Bobai here said, youcom is wildly unbelievable. Thanks youcom for raising the bar. It's about time. So this is what our users are saying. But before I want to show you the product and kind of go through what it really is and hopefully excite all of you to try it, I want to talk a little bit about where the internet is right now. And it's kind of interesting. A lot of things have changed since the last time a good search engine was launched. Namely that access to information isn't the problem anymore. The problem is actually that there's too much of it. And we don't know what to trust, and we don't have time anymore to read it all. On top of that, the entire economy is moving online. Every company out there needs to have an online presence. And then at the same time, you have a single gatekeeper where it all starts for most people when they're trying to do something on the internet that just wants to show you ads and sell you, the user, to the highest bidder. And after several years of them trying to say, oh, how can we make more money next year? They're like, well, how about we add another ad to that first page that you will see? And so this was a tweet by a Bloomberg reporter, Kim, when he looked for jeans. And it's basically 95% ads. And not only is that kind of annoying and you have to scroll and you lose time, but even after you scroll, you see sort of second order advertising effects of SEO, search engine optimized microsites and so on. And clearly those are not often the most useful and relevant kind of information. Now you combine that mega trend with the fact that now 65% of all Google searches are 0 clicks. Meaning they don't even leave the Google ecosystem anymore. And so in essence, what that means is as the entire economy is moving online, organizations are not going to be relevant unless they pay the Google tax. So basically every company out there has this love-hate relationship with Google because Google gives them traffic, but also it slowly takes that traffic away as much as they can and let you stay within their own experience. And so I think we need to have more new tools for people to have some agency in their information diet. Not only are these problems for organizations, but it's also problems for us, because ultimately you have one monopolistic monolith that decides what you buy, what you read, what you see, and what you consume. And you have no agency and no control over that, and explicit personalization. And this is a general problem. I've done a lot of AI research over the last decade, and I love AI, but one thing that seems to happen with AI is often that we train AI systems, especially in the consumer internet, and then people have actually no control over it anymore. And oftentimes the AI is optimized for a specific objective function, and the objective function for most companies is engagement. And so we're all stuck on Instagram in these engagement loops of trying to see some other fun thing. And I myself got stuck in that too. I actually eventually, a couple of weeks ago, had to uninstall Instagram because there's so many fun paramotor videos. I love paramotoring, it's like power paragliding. I'll talk about that some other time. But it's like super fun to watch these videos. But it's essentially, it can waste your time. You have these engagement loops, and the AI is getting better and better at recommending you something to help you waste your time. And so if you don't want that, sometimes you want it, right? But sometimes you don't. You want to just get something done. And we need a new interface to our digital lives that lets you actually just get stuff done. And so another angle that led me personally in my journey to start youcom is that I love AI and especially natural language processing. I used to teach it at Stanford for several years and did my PhD in it and all of that. And I thought, what would be the highest impact thing I could be doing? And in some ways, I know a lot of you are thinking about entrepreneurial kind of routes and career careers, there are two ways you can think about doing your company. There's a bottoms-up and a top-down approach. And bottoms-up makes sense. You see in your own life what could be made more efficient, how can you improve your day-to-day lives, and then start a company that does that. And other times you can think top-down and say, what would make the world a better place? How can we actually change some bigger problems? And to me, search and helping people summarize information basically became that thing. It's the highest impact thing that I could be doing with my time together with our team to improve the state of the world. And I know it sounds kind of funny, and there are a lot of startups that say it, but I actually truly believe that we're trying to do that. We're on a mission to improve the internet and bring more trust, facts, and kindness to it, and I'll explain what each of these means when we go into this demo right now. So I want to spend a lot of time, I want to keep a lot of time also for questions, so if you have any questions, prepare. We'll go just through a couple of searches. You see here all the tabs that I have open. I want to show you sort of what a new experience could look like, where you actually rethink this thing that we assume was just kind of always going to be a list of blue links that is getting more and more clouded. So let's start with a fun search, namely Foo Fighters. Great band, can't really hate them. And you see here your web results, but you also notice something very different right away, which is after a simple Wikipedia app that lets you access quickly sort of some of the main sections, you have a web app, and the web app is a horizontal scroll, which is actually very intuitive. It seems like the younger you are and the more you spend time on Instagram and TikTok, the more intuitive it is to scroll left, right really quickly to see more of a specific kind of content. But this new design innovation also allowed us to do some things very differently. Namely, you can quickly jump between different kinds of content, but also always zoom in and go deeper into it. So you can have a people also ask app, for instance, but you can also have a Twitter app that shows you tweets or different profiles. And if you're logged in to this account, because this is the interface to your digital life, you can quickly follow someone or retweet something that they want. And you have a music app, play the songs. You also have a Reddit app. A lot of people love Reddit and often add something Reddit to the end of their searches. You don't have to do this anymore. You can say once, I like Reddit, and I'll explain what that means. There are basically two ways you actually have agency in this new interface. One is you can actually say, I want to see Reddit more for these kinds of queries, maybe bands, and actually move it up. So imagine how hard it is to actually change the Google ranking. Here, every user actually has control over their own ranking and gets agency back. And if you want to not just do it for this kind of query, but in general, you can go to source preferences, and then you will see all kinds of different sources that you can say you like and you want to see more of. And that to us is a really important factor for the new kind of internet. In some ways, we're unbundling Google and allowing people to have real agency, but also these different apps that you see here, including TikTok, and I guess even Dave Grohl might be on LinkedIn, are ways that organizations also will get control back and actually be able to represent themselves better. Now let's do a couple of other searches. Here we look for best Thai restaurants near me. I did the search and preloaded it when I was still in Menlo Park, next to Stanford. And so we get Farmhouse Kitchen, and there's a Yelp app. And in the future, Yelp actually can have control over this. And in fact, all of you can have control over this. In a couple of months, we will open up this platform. And just 2 weeks ago, a friend of mine said, oh, I went on youcom and I looked for Berkeley bus schedule and I didn't find any good results. And then I went to Google and I also didn't find any good results. Turns out the Berkeley bus schedule friends are just not important enough for anyone to build a specific user experience. But if you're a CS student and you want to see good results in your interface to digital life, you can just build a Berkeley bus schedule app and then that will come up in the top. And that ultimately will give us much, much more power than even one, albeit very, very powerful trillion-dollar company, by us actually working together to create that new experience. And best Asian foods in my area is a related and similar search, and there's a lot of natural language processing that we had to build here under the hood to try to understand what the intent is of a query, what kinds of applications we should rank and how we should rank them, and then also translate natural language questions into an API or a computer language. Now, here's a search that I'm very excited about. And if you're a computer science student or ever have any kind of research question or developer question, I think you're going to love this one a lot too. Let's say you're in the middle of a hackathon or an assignment, and you want to find out how to send an SMS in Twilio. You'll have your standard web results, but more interestingly, you have a Stack Overflow app. And you can just go through all the different Stack Overflow solutions and answers, and then there's a very convenient copy and paste button right there. I see some CS students thank you. Yeah, this is our first instantiation of moving from just a search engine to a do engine. We want to basically work with our users and not have them have to open 50 different tabs and basically try to find the answers, but just help them get something done quickly. And then it gets even better. We have also an AI. So assuming that the answer wasn't on Stack Overflow, we have here a very large language model trained on a lot of code that would actually sometimes write the entire function for you. It's a little bit hard to see on the black background, but I'll zoom in here a little bit. This is a code question, right? And so send SMS in Twilio just writes the entire function for you. And I kind of feel almost bad telling that to college students because it'll probably write you a Fibonacci function and a traverse binary tree function and all these other things that you may be asked to do in various scenarios. But in general, it will be very, very helpful for all kinds of developers, and I think will change how we think about search. And we're just starting. We're coming out of stealth this week and out of our private beta into what we call a public beta. But this is sort of where we want to go. We want to become not just a search engine, but a do engine. And if you compare that to any other kind of search engine, of which I randomly chose two here, it just doesn't really do the same thing for you. This one is also just not quite as relevant. It's just like you have to open 50 different tabs and hope that one of these will maybe have it, but you don't see any code, and so on. And we have a ton of different developer applications. You can see them in our FAQ. There's a GitHub integration tool. You can search through your own code or other people's code. And yeah, there are tons of other kinds of applications that make your life as a developer much, much easier. Also, if you're a researcher, a little bit small, let me zoom out a little bit. You might be interested in AI models. There's an archive app. And the archive app will basically not just show you the code, the papers and who they are and connect to Google Scholar, but also code implementations of those papers. So connecting papers with code. And again, you can zoom in and see more and more of one kind of area you want to research, or you can quickly skip to your standard web results, or maybe again Reddit has some interesting conversations and discussions about this. Here are a couple more developer apps. When you look for pandas, a lot of times what you want to do is read in some quick CSV file, and again, boom, you're done. Now, of course, we also need to buy some things. We haven't actually focused that much on shopping, but we do have a couple of things where we think we can immediately make your life easier in that world too, which is having side panels and basically summaries from different kind of professional reviews, so you can very quickly go through and make a decision. And there's not just PC Mag. Also, you might see it, but I actually have here a keyboard navigation too, so I can quickly jump left, right, up, down, and then see different kinds of things. Press enter, go through these, escape, and go back out. We'll have Ethereum and various crypto apps, and there's going to be more of that in the pipeline. Of course, we will have lots of cute puppies too, and if you actually look for things for your company where you might want to have the rights to buy them and not get sued, You can have all kinds of different image apps that will allow you to get those. And then, of course, there's like a lot of parody apps, what we call parody apps, and then Google has it also, so it's not that interesting. And this is actually what makes this particular startup really, really challenging, is because Google has a ton of features, right? And you need to have at least a couple of them, or enough of them, so that you're good enough to be that default. Because that's what we hope all of you will do, and everyone else in the future will do, which is to make us your default, because otherwise you lose a lot of that convenience right away. One thing I'm really excited about is also just in terms of learning about different subjects is our Medium collaboration. My friend Andre here at Tesla wrote a really great article about Software 2.0, and what we found actually, and what users are telling us, is after seeing all this good content from Medium on youcom, they reactivated their Medium accounts and are looking into that now. And again, helps you kind of summarize the web. And maybe a side note on summarization. If you're familiar with deep learning and natural language processing, you know there's a lot of research on deep learning models, AI models, to summarize a text. But what's interesting is, I've published several of these papers too, but the problem is that when someone asks you for Software 2.0 or how to do, read a CSV file to Panda, you don't want to have some AI write you a nice little text. What you actually want to see are code snippets, or when you look for best restaurants, you want to see a list of like actual restaurants and their star ratings and how far they are away from you and so on. And so this is kind of our instantiation of an actual summarization engine where you can zoom in more and more along one dimension, one of these apps, but you can also quickly skip to the next one. And I want to just end on an important note on privacy. I think in some ways, people who are now in undergrad probably grew up with having zero privacy, and they're just kind of assumed that that is okay and normal and not a problem. But it actually, I think, is a problem that companies have so much control and so much knowledge about everything that you do, and can and will and are manipulating you massively. And one way we think about privacy is that it has to be a convenient choice. So the problem right now is that you often have this XOR, like you want to have convenience or you want to have privacy. And it's very hard to have both. And in some cases, it's actually impossible to have both. So for instance, if you want to have a very convenient query of weather near me, then somewhere someone needs to know where you are in order to be able to connect near me to, that means their IP address, their location, and send that location to some weather service. And so you just cannot have that privacy in that moment. And a lot of times, even the most privacy-preserving or privacy-focused search engines like DuckDuckGo will invade your privacy that way. But in our case, we actually have an incognito mode. So you can go up here and with one click, you are switched to an incognito mode where we don't store your query, we don't know where you are, we don't share your IP address or your location or any of that. And we think that is kind of the way to make privacy a choice that you can quickly make, and again, give people agency towards what they do. And privacy is kind of complicated, and there are a lot of different dimensions to it. I don't want to bore you with it, but you can basically, across all of these, at a very high level, you have Google, which invades your privacy at every turn they can. In the next level, you have our personalized mode, where we never sell you data, but we do keep your preferences of which apps you prefer and so on, to be able to provide a personalized, convenient experience. Then next, you sort of have DuckDuckGo, which is a very privacy-focused search engine. But then you have our incognito mode, which is the most private way we think you could search. And so my hunch is, you want to look for some funky rash that you have. You go in incognito mode, no one needs to know. And then you can, again, want to have restaurants near you, and you can go into your personalized mode. And we think that's another really important innovation in the space. And with that, just to wrap it up before we open up for questions, but essentially youcom will be this open app platform that already has best-in-class privacy choices, tries to help you get actionable results, save you time rather than get you stuck in engagement loops, actually gives you agency back, and will bring trust, facts, and kindness and our values to the internet. And yeah, hope you can join our movement. You can join the waitlist right now, but given that we're launching on Tuesday, joining the waitlist means you get an invite tomorrow. So look forward to you then, and look forward to your questions now.
Thank you so much, Richard. We actually have a few more minutes for questions, so if you have a question. I saw your hands.
I personally have been waiting for this for a long time. Thanks for that. I have two questions. Why did you call it you? And the second question is, if you're not selling data, how are you going to monetize this?
Great question. So why you and how do we make money? So we think you1 is a great name. If you can get a 3-letter URL, you should probably always just go get it. We were very lucky, and this URL had never actually been for sale in the last 25 years until it was part of our seed round. But youcom is about you giving you agency, you privacy, and help you get stuff done. So it's just a way to have a lot of good puns and also know that we're focused on you, the user, rather than selling you to advertisers. Now, how do we make money? The true answer is we don't right now, and we're just focused on growth. But if you are that interface to someone's digital life, it's actually surprisingly easy, and I'm kind of dismayed at how little creativity there had been in the last 20 years on monetization. There are many different ways. One thing that we want to say right now and are publicly committing to is to never sell user data, never track people, and never do privacy invading or highly sort of personalized advertisement. But you can, similar to DuckDuckGo, for instance, have private advertising that's only based on the query, not on the user, and knowing that this user made this query isn't shared with anyone outside. So that's one way. And then I wish I could tell you all the other cool ideas that are actually creative, but it would be kind of silly because it's public and we have some competitors out there. So, but we want to do and make those decisions also together with the community. We have a very active Slack community, and before we would do that, we would talk to our users.
Thank you. Very interesting presentation. Definitely democracy, the more democracy in the search engine space with definitely more diversity in there. So I have one question and one idea. So the question being, if I understand it right, the search youcom prioritize in the bigger websites, the bigger platforms such as Reddit, Best Buy. So would there be any concerns of kind of the smaller platform that will be bypassed through the search engine and how you provide that diversity? And I think my idea would be actually this space or this tool will be really useful in the field of medicine because doctors just Google things all the time. And you can incorporate which I don't want to make anyone more worried than Medicare, but if you can incorporate big medical sources such as the Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, OpenPage, that will be super helpful. And I think last but not least, there is a prominent, another killer in the space, her name is Jennifer G. Scott, who's also an Asian American. And he has an idea of kind of, make money but as a user, so you can really shift the focus to the person, and they have the tools to make money out of their own data. That would be another interesting idea.
I love that idea. So Jennifer actually is an angel investor and a good friend of mine, and youcom too. So surprised. It's great that you know her as well. So the question was, how does this new interface maybe interfere or help or hurt smaller businesses? We actually think that with this new interface, it will be much better for pretty much every company out there, not just big businesses, but also smaller ones, because one, you can actually implement your own app and then have control over it. So Yelp, for instance, can take the Yelp app once they want. To be honest, if you're trying to bootstrap a platform, it's very hard to tell people like, hey, you have to build these right from the get-go, because when you're in the private beta, you don't have millions of users. Companies are like, why should I build this? It's not going to give me massive revenue right away. So we built these first 100 apps ourselves. But over time, as companies get more traffic from it, they can actually take those apps over And every small business can build their own app, and over time we'll also make it easier and easier to build different apps. And then one thing again that we commit to is that the relevance and the ranking of those is not going to be changed based on ads, so that the highest bidder could just be at the top, and then it's not any better than the current advertising-based search engines. And so, yeah, there might even be eventually WYSIWYG kinds of apps where you can just very easily add your own stuff to it. And then, of course, at the very least, if it's a very obscure thing, then there's still the web results that you have from other. Yeah, great question. Great suggestion.
All right, due to time constraint, I believe like this will be the last question. So thank you so much, Richard, for coming.